Yo, what's poppin', everybody? It is your boy. It is Gardi3, and I know it's very rare to see me on a morning show. It's been a while, but kind of stepping in and helping out as the person I like to call the greatest co-host of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the morning show today, it is Mo Better.
Hey,
Mo, how
good
you doing
morning, good morning, everybody. Appreciate you guys joining Brett and I on the morning show. I'm Mo, and of course, that is not Chris. That is my guy from And One podcast. That is Gardi3 filling in, doing yeoman's work. Appreciate you so much for stepping in, Brett.
Yeah, not a problem. Now, of course, I figure we can get talking about a little bit of basketball right away. I only got one basketball topic for us, but it's a pretty important one for the beginning of the year. We've already learned that New York Knicks center Mitchell Robinson is out until January. This is something that me and you talked about. The health of Mitchell Robinson being a concern, and it's already coming into full display. Mo, what do you think about him being already out? And do you think the Knicks make a move for another center, or how do you see that playing out?
Yeah, I do think it's a major development for the Knicks, who have championship aspirations. Look, the thing about Mitchell Robinson is him being out, him being injured. It isn't a new thing. That's kind of part of the Mitchell Robinson package. He is a good rebounder, good rim protector, but he's not reliable when it comes to availability. He's always out with some kind of injury or another. And now you find out this news in light of the fact that they chose not to try to match an offer to retain the services of Isaiah Hartenstein. You look at the Knicks, even with a healthy Mitchell Robinson, they're actually a small team. They don't have a lot of size. So I do think they go out in the free agent market and try to pursue some kind of veteran that can at least give them spot minutes. Maybe this is where the conversation about Julius Randle playing a lot of small ball five kicks in. I think that could jumpstart your offense to a degree, but it's going to hamper your defense a lot more, and along with your rebounding. So I think they either make a move in terms of like trying to get a deal done with another team. They have to do something to compensate for the fact that Robinson is going to be out this length of time. Like I said, this is a team that has championship aspirations. What I don't understand is when you look at their front office and everything that they know about Mitchell Robinson, if you're in contact with him and his representatives, you had to know this is coming, right? That he had a situation. You have to have the hindsight to prepare for that, and it looks like they didn't.
Yeah, no, because now the we're running a starting center group here of Julius Randle and Jericho Sims. That is, and it's funny because Julius Randle at center is the most intriguing thing that I can think of right now, and because there's a vision I see where it works really well, where Randle's catching the ball, just acting quick, attack right off the catch, quick decision making, and he's an absolute mismatch playing at the five. But the issue is we haven't seen that Randle in a couple of years. The Randle that we see wants to catch it, ISO, jab, do a little dance on the perimeter. So I think it'll be interesting to see which Julius Randle could get, because I think Randle at the five could work for stretches. But there's also going to be a trade-off. There's going to be some major rebounding issues with this team now. And they're just going to have all hands on deck. Josh Hart, you better get ready for to be battling with the trees in there this year again.
Yeah, look, this is not to say that the Knicks still won't be a good team, because they will be. They do have a lot of talented perimeter defenders on this team. So if they're elite in space, maybe that can compensate for the lack of size they have in the interior.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think we get to talk a lot of basketball on Thursdays and one podcast.
No doubt.
So why don't we switch over and talk some football?
Let's do it.
And why don't we start out with your 49ers? Mo, why don't you take us through and what you thought about the 49ers on this past Sunday?
So the offense moves the ball. They have no problem moving the ball. But what they're struggling with is their red zone execution. They're not finishing off drives. But the offense isn't the concern. The main concern for me is the defense and the lack of consistency on the defense. The defense doesn't seem to be able to play a complete game. They looked good against a Jets team that didn't seem prepared in week 1, but they struggled in week 2. In total control versus a Rams team, by the way, that wasn't on their second left tackle. They were on their third left tackle. They were minus their 2 best wide receivers. They had injuries on the defensive side of the football. And in the second half of that game, they could not get to Matthew Stafford. They really couldn't. And he picked them apart. Not to mention the run defense kind of failed late in the game as well. So I'm looking at the defense. And by the way, they just lost Hargrove for the season. So that's another devastating loss, not to mention their depth up front, which already was a little suspect. It got a little bit worse. I'm looking at a team right now that swagger that they have where they come in expecting to win games, it seems a little bit lost. They've got to dig in, and they've got to find a way to close out games. My disappointment, too, is also with the coaching staff. So late in the game, you have an opportunity to go up 10. I get it. If you make the 55-yard field goal. Or you could punt the football. You can punt the football and make the Rams have to drive the length of the field. I didn't understand that decision, the 55-yard field goal attempt. I didn't like that decision at all. To me, it actually showed a lack of confidence in your defense. And maybe Shanahan knows what I believe to be true. The defense isn't playing its best football. And that's at all levels, up front, at the linebacker spot, which, by the way, you've got one of the best guys, Fred Warner, but now he's a little banged up. But the secondary just seemed to have struggled in the second half of that game. So I would rather Shanahan not be as cute. The run game is there. What I didn't understand is that was a game where Mason should have had 28, 30 carries and not doing anything cute, but really just going through the 0 hole or the 1 hole. And you can live off of that. And Shanahan tried to get cute, which he will do from time to time, rather than try to win. And that was the disappointment. So now you have a team that's 1-2. And that last game, obviously, that was to a division opponent. So I think the Niners, I'm not going to say they're in trouble, but I think they need to buckle down.
Yeah, I was questioning the coaching staff because on that last play where, Stafford got the big completion to put him into field goal range, and just kind of down the stretch in general, you saw Javon Hargrave was just kind of really struggling out there. But they just kept sending him out.
Yeah.
Look, I get it. You'd think that somebody like Hargrave, he's tough. He's a soldier. He's not going to sit there and go, yo, coach, I need out. My arm's banged up.
Right.
He's going to try to play through it. That was a situation where the coaching staff had to step in like, you got to sit. You got to sit. We're going to check you out. Because, he wasn't getting it done. And, we learned after the game, I think it was, a ruptured bicep or something of the sorts. To me, that's just a failure on the coaching staff because you tell me you didn't notice anything wrong with him throughout between when it happened and then to the end of the game. Like, I was confused on that whole Javon Hargrave situation in general.
I just thought there was a lack of communication. Like you said, you didn't talk to anybody. The coaches didn't look at him and go, he seems to be a little bit off. Something's wrong. Because maybe had they gotten him out earlier, he might not be out for the season. Look, I'm not a doctor. There's no way you can know. But what I do know is he's gone for the season. And I think that ultimately is going to be a big loss for them. They're going to do something they haven't done in a long time. I think they might consistently struggle with the run. They already struggle at getting the quarterbacks. They normally when they're really good, when they're at their best, that front four can get after you without help. They're not doing it, not consistently. They start off early, but late in games, they seem to wear down and they struggle to get pressure on the QB. And when you struggle to get pressure on the quarterback, it kind of exposes that back line.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they adjust. I assume they'd have to be more aggressive blitzing linebackers since we learned that Hargrave's done for the year. So that they're definitely going to have to get a little more creative in how to get pressure on the quarterback, as the year progresses.
And your play calling, right? So if you know your defense might be struggling, the way you call your offense, you can be aggressive, but maybe you become more of a physical team up front, which they can be, and grind it up, own the clock, control the pace, do that. I saw some good things I thought Brock Purdy played pretty well. I thought Juan Jennings was terrific. You would have thought if you watched the game that Juan Jennings was the one that just got the big contract. Brandon Ayuk still looks like he's in preseason mode. So hopefully he'll catch up to the rest of the league and realize you're in the regular season. You can actually earn that money now.
Yeah, I saw a couple people, I call out a couple people there were like, oh, look at that. Brock Purdy couldn't get the job. And I was like, Brock Purdy was fine. Like, you can't do anything that Brandon Ayuk got paid and then turned into Nelson Aguilar.
Right. Look, I think you can criticize people for sure.
I know even on the same side of me, but can we talk about them scapegoating the DC last year and they look worse now?
Right. Look, we talked about that. Yeah, they killed him, and here we are. And this doesn't look like a top 5 defense. They're struggling, and I think they're struggling at all levels. And it doesn't seem like the coaching staff knows how to stop the bleeding. My problem with the Niners is if you can't stop the run, which means you got to win first and second down, you set yourself up for losing on third downs. And a guy like Stafford, if he can plant his feet, you're done. You're cooked.
No, absolutely. But there's another team that I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to kind of gauge how concerned you are about them. And specifically, I'm really concerned about this team, especially on one side of the ball. I'm talking about America's team, I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know how else to put it. Their run defense is terrible. I'm so concerned about the Dallas Cowboys. I think this team needs to make a trade sooner rather than later because this is a team that can only play from ahead. It has to get the other team's offense into obvious passing situations because Mozzie Smith is hardly he's not even a backup level defensive tackle at this point yet. He's starting. He's getting bullied in the run game. They have every single tackle they have bullied. Micah Parsons is getting bullied in the run game. Everybody on that defense in general is just getting rolled in the run game. And I don't know about you, Mo, but I think this is the Dallas team that really needs to make a move to fortify that D-line sooner rather than later.
They couldn't stop the run last season. And when you watch them play this season, running backs are not getting contact until the second level. It's funny because we had a conversation about Derrick Henry, and I stand on this about Derrick Henry. He's a very unique back because the thought process he's a power back. He's a power back when he gets to the second level. He's not a power back, right at the line of scrimmage. He runs like a scat back. That's just a fact. He's not physical until he's at the second level. And when they play the Cowboys, the first contact is corners and safeties, and he was eating them alive. I mean, if you look at some of the plays, there was a pocket, and he had these massive holes to run through, and there were defensive linemen pushed back 5-6 yards downfield. That's insane. And look, as good as Micah Parsons is at getting after it in the pass game, you want to go after Micah Parsons? Be physical in the run game. He's not that good at it. He isn't. He admitted that he lost weight to get quicker. Might not want to do that, bro. You might want to go the other way and get in the weight room. They're getting crushed. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. You can walk up a safety, but if you play against a quarterback that can recognize what you're doing, he's just going to audible out of that and eat you alive.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, they do have a lot of invested into that D line, which is crazy just how bad that first round draft pick Mozzie Smith. I can't get over how bad that guy is. I don't know how he's starting for like a team with actual playoff aspirations.
Well, he's probably starting though because he's better than the next guy up. You know what I mean? Like they don't have a lot of choice.
Yeah, and like all the Ravens did for quite a bit of that game, they didn't do anything special. They just, hey, I'm going to come down in 12 personnel. I'm going to run out with 2 tight ends, and here's Patrick Ricard too in the backfield, and we're just going to run it down your throat, and it worked. But that also kind of brings me to my other part of this whole problem. The Ravens seem to finish games like convincingly. This is a team that every game this year so far, fourth quarter blown lead, fourth quarter almost blown lead. Unfortunately, they couldn't make the winning plays they needed to against the Chiefs. This is a team that just is not getting convincing wins so far this year. They always seem to kind of fade down the stretch. Do you think that this will end up being a reoccurring issue, or do you think this is maybe just a phase right now for the Ravens?
I'm more concerned about the defense, but I think the defense will eventually get it together and play at the level that we're used to seeing them play at. The offense, to me, I don't know. I still don't know their offensive identity. We know that Lamar's going to run for 70 or 80 yards a game. I don't think Derrick Henry is going to have a lot of 100-yard games. I just don't. Maybe when he plays against other bad teams against the run, but and they do a lot of RPO, and because he's a big back who doesn't have a lot of wiggle in his game, he's horrible from the RPO. That goes to show you that if you can be effective in the RPO against Dallas, like they really are bad, because if you got him going sideways, side to side rather than just straight ahead, he's a completely different football player. I think the offense doesn't have an identity. It's been Lamar, and they're trying to keep it Lamar, but also have a package for Derrick Henry, and they've got to find a way to marry the two and get the perfect blend. I will also say, when they play against better teams, better defenses, and they say, Lamar Jackson, we're not going to let you run. Derrick Henry, we're not going to let you run. But the pass game is wide open. I still don't think people fear their offense in terms of their passing game. I don't. I think I still think they have a limited passing attack. I look at their receiving core. They're solid players, but I don't think there's anybody other than the tight end Andrews who can really beat really good one-on-one coverage. I don't think like Zay's quick, but he doesn't know. He's not a route runner. So I think you can attack them in a multitude of ways. If you shut down the run and play coverage and make Lamar have to make decisions, I think you can beat them.
Good morning, Jeremy. Thank you for joining us today. All right, fine. I'll do it. Yeah, you pushed me, but no, that was going to come up anyway. Might as well talk about my Packers too while I have a chance to kind of gloat. So obviously they handled.
Wait, Rhett, real quick before you gloat. I'm sure you went into this past weeks with all the confidence in the world. I'm sure you were like, Malik Willis is about to turn it out. He's going to kill Tennessee. I'm sure you were saying that before the game, right?
So before the game, I thought it would be competitive. I thought Malik would do great. LaFleur has shown that he can scheme really well with Malik Willis, and in general, Willis can fit super well with the scheme we're trying to run. I don't think anything prepared me for just even that first drive in general. Like him coming out and immediately hitting Christian Watson on a 30-yard bomb, him hitting Jaden Reed on another 20-yard pass. I don't think that anything prepared me for that. I was expecting a lot more just in-your-face running like last week. So the fact that you could just tell how much more he just, even from last week to this week, just how much more that he trusted Malik Willis to do more, that was great. And Malik looks awesome. It goes to show you how much coaching matters, right?
Facts.
Because after the game, I was talking with somebody in a Discord, and the one guy was like, See, I told you the Titans should have kept, the Titans should have kept Malik Willis over Will Levis. And I'm like, yeah, but he sucked with the Titans. He wouldn't be the same player you're seeing this week, but if he was still in Tennessee. Like, the scheme and coaching really matter. So, overall, I love what we did. Malik Willis is looking more comfortable, each passing week. And if you would have told me that Jordan Love went out and we proceeded to win our next 2 games, most ecstatic person alive. I love it. That being said, I would be the first to say I hope Jordan Love is back this week. I think that we're going up against Brian Flores. That's a completely different animal defensively than anything we faced the first 2 weeks here. But it was great. Our defense, too. Xavier McKinney has been fantastic. Our pass rush with 8 sacks. Overall, I'm really proud of what the Packers did on Sunday. They absolutely dismantled them. Jair had a pick 6. So, terrific job overall by Green Bay. Can't really complain about anything that happened on Sunday.
It was look, I actually enjoyed the game. I did. I thought this was going to be an ugly game. I thought we were looking at a 13-10 game. I was thinking, and Chris and I talked about this on the morning show, that if anybody knew Malik Willis better than Malik Willis, it would be Tennessee, right? They thought so much of him, they got rid of him right before the season, sent him to the Packers. And look what happens when you get him with a team, with a coaching staff that schemes to his skill sets, right? Sets him up for success. Completely different player. You make a great point. If you switch it out and you put Will Levis with the Packers, put Will Levis on the Packers, I think they would scheme for Will Levis' skill set, and he would look better. Coaching does matter. And right now in Tennessee, the OC not getting the job done, but credit to your Packers. And look, I want to say a big shout out to Malik Willis. I'm impressed. Look, the guy is showing you're a Packer fan. He's not your number 1 quarterback, but now if your number 1 goes down for a game or 2, you've got a reliable guy that can go out there and help you win football games.
Yeah. So I would rather have Jordan Love than Malik Willis for next week against the Vikings. I love that we were able to beat the Colts and the Titans. With that being said, it's different going against Brian Flores. Brian Flores is an absolute psycho on defense. It's just a completely different animal with the way he schemes, the way he sends pressure. I like Malik Willis. I think he's done great these first 2 weeks. I don't know if it's the same story putting him against someone like Brian Flores. I'm a little nervous if that is the case. I still believe in Malik Willis that he can get the job done against Minnesota on Sunday if it comes down to it. But you give me my choice of quarterbacks. If he's ready, give me Jordan Love. I think he can, really dissect coverages and everything better than Malik Willis will be able to.
Especially going against Brian Flores, like you said, because Brian Flores is going to come at you with zone blitzes that you don't see coming out of nowhere. Or he's going to show you a total blitz package, and then right before the ball is snapped, they drop out of that. So I'm with you. Brian Flores is kind of a defensive diabolical genius. And on top of that, the Vikings offense, it's one of the better offenses in football this early in the season. We used to joke about it. We did. But right now, Sam Darnold kind of looks a little bit like Steve Young. That's crazy, but he's balling. He is balling. And their run game has been solid. So, look, I do think your defense will be able to slow down their offense. But if I'm a Packers fan, as well as Willis played, I'd much rather have Jordan Love in because, to your point, he can see things coming. He can dissect coverages. He's a better thrower of the football.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Jeremy, I think I just kind of trust it with our training staff, whatever they say. So if they say he's ready for Sunday, I'll trust that. We're not putting Jordan Love in a position to go back out there and just re-sprain it or re-injure it. Listen, if he sits this week, I have no problem bringing him back next week against a much easier matchup. We go against the Rams next week. So if that's the move, I'll take it. I'll live with it either way. It's funny because There's one more team that I felt so insanely happy, maybe almost as happy as the Packers winning. Not actually as happy, but because I got told that I was on drugs, that I was doing crack when I was on the show last Tuesday, and I said, not only will the Giants cover the spread, they will beat the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. And my prediction came true, and I was so happy about that. I think we have to start calling Deshaun Watson. I think he's just Deshaun Washington. That man looks cooked out there. I can't even find anything great to say about this Browns team, and I get it. They're missing Conklin. But if your offense looks this bad, missing one player, maybe you just have a bigger problem in general. I'm not trying to downplay missing someone like Conklin, but your offense shouldn't completely fall off a cliff and not be able to, move the ball and score against the New York Giants without him.
They don't have a quarterback. I know they got a guy that's under contract for a lot of guaranteed money, but they don't have a quarterback. I'm not even sure that Deshaun Watson's a capable backup. Right now, he's a bad game. If you can be a game manager that's bad, he's a bad game manager. And they're a rudderless ship right now. They still have a terrific defense, but I don't care how good your defense is. If you're on the field, play after play after play, because all your offense does is go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, the best defense is going to wear down. The best defense is going to start giving up plays. Deshaun Watson is an anchor around the franchise's neck. And at some point, just cut your losses and admit it. We got, but we got to get rid of this guy. We got to get a quarterback. And don't try to go, well, we'll trade him here and there. Don't nobody want Deshaun Watson. Don't nobody want him. Not as their starting quarterback. Don't nobody want him. I think the Browns are in trouble because in a quarterback-driven league, you have to get competent quarterback play. They're in one of the toughest, if not the toughest division in football, and their quarterback is the worst quarterback in the division, period. I know the Bengals are 0-3, but it's not because Joe Burrow's not a good quarterback. Deshaun Watson is terrible. He is terrible. I'm looking at the Browns, and I'm like, Joe Flacco's looking pretty good again, right? You guys should have never let the old man go. If they had Joe Flacco, I guarantee you they'd have a better record.
Don't worry, Jeremy. We're going to get to Andy Dalton and the Panthers next. But
matter of fact, if they had Andy Dalton, they would have a better record.
And that's kind of the hard part with the Browns right now, because it's not like they can just, oh, well, we made a mistake. Well, we can cut him next year. No, he has guaranteed money for the next 2 years. Mo, did you see the numbers for the next 2 years? It is bad.
What are they? His cap numbers?
He's owed $72 million next year and $72 million the year after that, because they decided to restructure his contract a couple times, all guaranteed. So I think this season, like Kyle just mentioned, you can maybe switch to Jameis Winston.
I would.
It's a situation too that now, unfortunately, that's a this year fix. But what about next year when you're paying the guy $72 million, or the year after that? Jameis is a free agent after the year. You just keep getting veteran stopgaps until this contract's up.
That seems like the Browns' way, right? Jameis plays well, but then he'll play well enough to where another team will bring him in, and he'll be gone, and then they'll go out and get another guy. Maybe Andy Dalton will be available, right? You're right. They're going to have to pay this guy, but you already know. You like they're not changing the questions to the test. You already know the answer. The answer is you need a quarterback. You don't have I get it. He's under contract, except the fact you're going to have to eat that money. They need a quarterback. And it's not going to happen this year in any kind of trade or anything like that, unless that would never happen. Not in division, that wouldn't happen. But I just think, why not go to Jameis? I get it. Jameis can kind of put the football in harm's way, but is Jameis a better thrower of the football than Deshaun Watson? He is. You can tell me that Deshaun Watson is a better athlete, but this version of Deshaun Watson, not much of a better athlete. He doesn't use his legs. One of the assets that makes him special or made him special, he doesn't use them. He actually tries to hang in the pocket and beat you that way. That's not the strength of what he does. Like I said, I'm watching Deshaun Watson, and it looks like the ghost of Deshaun Watson. Yes, why would you not go with Jameis if you're trying to win football games rather than have this argument about we're paying this guy all this money? Do you want to win football games or not? Bring in Jameis.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, I just do before we get talk about some Panthers and Andy Dalton. I do want to shout out Malik Neighbors. The Giants got a real one, and once they pair him with, I'm assuming their quarterback of the future, they get in next year's draft. It's absolutely going to be fantastic.
Let me give credit out to Daniel Jones too. He actually played well.
Oh, absolutely. Daniel Jones is balling. Are we going to have another repeat where Malik Neighbors kind of carries Daniel Jones in such a good year that the Giants are like, you know what? Daniel Jones looking good. Turn the corner. Another extension.
It would not shock me.
But yeah, so Panthers all of a sudden look like the greatest offense of all time. They dismantled the Raiders on Sunday. I like Bryce Young, and I think the Panthers still just didn't do a great job, really developing him. I think Andy Dalton did show, though, that you can't blame all of the issues going on the Panthers. Some of it does fall on Bryce Young. So it's an interesting dilemma because I already saw the reports that they're going to bring Bryce Young back at some point during the season. Mo, what do you think about this whole Andy Dalton, Bryce Young, and just Panthers quarterback situation in general?
So first of all, they don't have a quarterback controversy. They had a system in place, and they wanted Bryce Young to adapt to the system rather than create a system that fits Bryce Young's skill set. And it hasn't gone well. I'm not saying that Bryce Young hasn't struggled or looked like a deer in the headlights from time to time. But I am saying if you invest that much in this young man to draft him where you drafted him, even if there was disagreements in who wanted him, he's there now. You have to set him up for success. The fact that Andy Dalton can come off the bench, and Andy Dalton's been a solid quarterback throughout his career, but for him to just come off the bench and the offense look that much better, it means that Bryce Young is ill prepared. But I think that's something you look at the OC, you look at the quarterback's coach, they're not doing enough for this young man. I think in the big picture, maybe they make the decision to move on from him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think Bryce Young, if they do move on from him, he's going to go to a team where they're actually, built around him, build something that's more built around Bryce Young. That entire offense that they built in his rookie year almost seemed like, once again, they didn't build it around his skill set. They almost tried to build it around. That was something more you'd build around like C.J. Stroud. And that was, ironically, apparently the guy who, Frank Reich and company wanted. So they developed this system, and they're like, oh, Bryce, you're just going to have to adapt to our system. I completely 100% agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I just think they've done him a disservice. So look, the best thing that could happen to him is if they decide to move on from him, because I think if he can go somewhere where he has a good quarterback coach, he has a good OC, I think the young man can play good football and have an opportunity to be a starter again.
Well, Quinn Ewers, you are a Carolina Panther. Congratulations. I figure let's talk about some Monday Night Football too. We have a tale of two games. One very competitive game. One not so much. Well, we start with the not so competitive game first. Buffalo absolutely dismantled the Jaguars. And the one thing I will say with the Bills, their offense looks absolutely fantastic. But I gotta say, Von Miller has looked absolutely revitalized this past offseason. Everybody's talking about how that's one of the worst contracts in football. And now he is almost looking like the Von Miller of old. He has like a 20% pressure rate. He's been getting after quarterbacks. He has a sack in all 3 games. So I think the big question from this game, though, if we're being honest, is going to come from the other side of the football. Mo, what do you think about the whole situation down in Jacksonville? Do you think Trevor Lawrence is the guy? Do you think that Doug Peterson makes it through the season?
I think Peterson makes it through the season. The question with Trevor Lawrence is it's not whether or not he's a good quarterback. I don't think there's a question. He's a good quarterback. The question with Trevor Lawrence is he a franchise quarterback? Should his name be mentioned up there with names like Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, someone of that level? I don't know. I know coming out, I know what we all thought. And he, like I said, he hasn't played bad, but he's kind of been just decent or just good enough. And I'm looking at him, and honestly, I feel like his OC's not calling the game that great, and he's not getting the most out of his weapons. Like what happened to ATN? Travis ATN used to be an explosive running back, and also very good in the pass game, and they seem like they use him less and less. And I get it; the old line hasn't been that great. It looks like a team that's in disarray. You're looking at their defense, and Buffalo was shredding their defense like butter. They got anything they wanted whenever they wanted. It looked like they were playing 7-on-7. That's how easy it came for Buffalo on offense. I'm looking at Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, and I know before the season we were making a case that I thought CJ Stroud and the Texans would win the division, and the Jaguars would be second. And I don't know now. I have no clue what's going on with Jacksonville. What I will say is there's more questions than answers on both sides of the football.
So this game was hilarious to me. And honestly, I think Doug Peterson's undoing is his reliance on Press Taylor, the offensive coordinator. That man absolutely calls the worst games that I have seen in a minute. The first play, because I didn't get to watch the whole thing, so I got to tune into some of it. I was like, oh, let's see how this game is going. Tune into it. First play, it's a rollout to the left, except Jaguars aren't running any routes to the left side of the field. All the routes are on the opposite side of the field. So we're forcing Thielen to stop, plant, and try to throw like across his body into tight coverage. And it's just overall the play calling for Trevor Lawrence has been the worst thing ever. And I don't think he's a bad quarterback either, and that's the frustrating part. But it almost feels like Doug Peterson's undoing, and this is really hurting T-Law, too, is Press Taylor. I think he's a problem, and they really shouldn't let him back in the building today. Last night's performance was horrendous.
And maybe we overrate the talent they have at the skill positions. Like I think Christian Kirk's a good receiver, but I don't think he's a number one. I don't think he's a number one. I think Christian Kirk's a number 2 or a 3, but he's not a number one. They don't have a number one receiver. And so that could be a problem as well. I don't think they have guys that can consistently beat man-to-man situations. I don't. And I don't know what's going on in the run game. The offensive line has struggled. Every time I see Travis Etienne take a handoff, he usually is contacted in the backfield. So I'm looking at them as a team. And like I said, I look at the offensive coordinator. I look at the quarterback coach. And I look at Trevor Lawrence and the body language, and there's a complete disconnect with all three.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it seems like Gene isn't a fan of Press Taylor either, and I can see why. Like, I have not tuned into a Jags game this year and go, that was a really good game called on offense. Like, they haven't been able to win, but when they do win, it's normally very ugly in the Press Taylor era here, and they haven't won a game since last year with C.J. Beathard at quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see. Because I do still believe in Trevor Lawrence, and I do agree with you. The question at this point is he a franchise guy? But the one guy who definitely looked like a franchise quarterback last night, Josh Allen, man. Shout out to Gene, by the way. He picked Josh Allen for MVP before the year even started.
He did.
And that is aging like wine so far. Josh Allen looks terrific. And it's funny because they got rid of, Stephon Diggs, and they look even better. He's spreading the ball around. They're, putting a little more emphasis on the run game. We all believe in Joe Hendry, don't worry. But overall, this Buffalo offense looks absolutely fantastic. And like I said, the defense has matched it to start the year.
The offense, like you said, watching Josh Allen right now, the way he's got command of the offense, the way he's mixing up between when he's using his arm and his legs. They're actually fun to watch because now every receiver, every running back is a threat to catch a football, right? So that makes them a little bit more versatile. I like the way the offense is flowing. To your point, I'm looking at Von Miller and like, this guy's the oldest guy on the field. Why is he kicking everybody's ass? That's crazy. That's crazy to me. Look, Buffalo's a good football team, and Josh Allen right now, he's got to be in the lead for MVP. I don't even think it's close. I thought it was going to be a competitive football game. Thank God I turned away and started watching the other game.
No, that's absolutely fair. And the other game, as we know, Commanders, Bengals, this is the kind of game, too, that when people talk about Jaden Daniels, I think this game will always stick with him at the coming out party because what he did against the Bengals was absolutely incredible. Now, was the Bengals defense terrible? Yes, absolutely. But when he needed to, Jaden Daniels still made a lot of great throws when he needed to. He made a lot of great plays when he needed to. Credit to Joe Burrow. He bounced back in a big way. He looked fantastic. Unfortunately for Joe, his defense did not bounce back at all. They looked awful. The Commanders' defense didn't look great, but I kind of expect that from the Commanders' defense, so it doesn't surprise me. Mo, what did you think about this game in total?
Entertaining football game. Jade McDaniels, he looks like a veteran. He has that kind of poise. And he uses his legs, Brett, but he uses his legs just in situations. Just if he needs to get 4 or 5 yards for a first down to sustain the drive, he's going to take off. I don't think Jaden McDaniels is trying to be – he's not trying to be Lamar in any way. I don't think he wants to be known as a running quarterback. I think he's going to be selective in when he uses his legs. But he made a couple of throws last night, Brett, that made you go like, this kid, he's got it. That throw to McLaren, that was insane. It was a great route, but the throw and the coverage wasn't bad. It was just a great route and a great throw. He's fun to watch. He's fun to watch, and I think he's energized his football team, and he's energized their fan base. Like, you look at him, and you're in the fan base, and you're like, the future looks bright again. Like, they have that kind of energy about them the way they did years back, Brett, when RG3 was a rookie.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Gene said, talking about that throw to Scary Terry. He said it was a top 5 throw this year. I was debating on which throw I liked better. There was between it was probably that one, but I want to give credit to another throw I saw. We're talking about some great throws from this past weekend. Shout out Andy Dalton on threading the needle over 2 defenders to Adam. That throw was absolutely incredible. But I thought that was going to be the best throw this weekend, and then Jaden Daniels came out and threw that dot to Scary Terry. Overall, once again, when we talk about Jaden Daniels, this is going to be a game we bring up at his coming out party. And it's looking like he very well could end up being the best rookie QB in this class. Obviously not taking anything away from, Caleb Williams. I think he has a lot of potential too. But Jaden Daniels' coming out party yesterday was kind of hard to ignore.
And I like the way they scheme the offense that fits what he does best. I like the fact that even though he's slight of built, he has no problem at taking off when he needs to. And he's not one of those guys that's like, I'm going to go for a 60-yard run. He gets the 10 or 5 yards needed, and he's on the ground. He does take a couple of shots that you don't like to see your quarterback take, but I think he'll get smarter. He's a rookie, let's not forget. But I'm looking at them, Brett, and I'm like, you know what? They don't have a great defense, but the Cowboys don't either. I don't know if the Redskins don't have a better record than the Cowboys. By the way, I'm going to remind everybody, I said the Cowboys ain't going to make the playoffs. I'm standing on that. They're not making the playoffs.
I feel bad for both Bo Nix and Caleb Williams. Like, Sean Payton is in the Celtics Shaq era. That dude just looks beyond wash calling plays half the time. But Caleb Williams, pairing him with Matt Eberflus was always going to be just setting him up for failure. We knew Eberflus is going to be a lame duck head coach. He's done after this year. That's something I said before. And I know he's on Hard Knocks. People got hyped up like, oh, Eberflus is going to have a great year. But the reality is, I watched this dude coach this team for multiple years. He's just not the answer. I'm not going to, blame Caleb Williams for the Bears' struggles. It wasn't Caleb Williams' fault that he passed 52 times against a Colts defense that literally has been getting gashed on the ground against every single team except by the Bears, who Swift has been something else for them. But like at the end of the day, I think Caleb Williams is going to be a baller. I just think they dropped the ball by not making a decision to move on from Matt Eberflus, and it hurts him big time, because guess what? What's going to happen next year? New head coach, new scheme, new offense. This is why we have a saying here on Wire to Wire: you marry the coach to the quarterback.
There it
The
is.
Saints didn't do that, and now they get to pay the price by having him try to learn a completely new scheme next year.
No, I'm with you. It's funny because in the offseason, we were all talking about the weapons that the Bears acquired to help Caleb Williams out. And that was fine. But when I watched Caleb Williams drop back, Brett, I don't know if it's just me, but 9 times out of 10, I feel like he's always under duress, right? Like that offensive line, they actually run block pretty well. Pass block, not so good. And let's all be clear on this. Nobody came into this season as a rookie with more pressure on their shoulders than Caleb Williams, right? And to be fair, some of that is his own doing, right? Because he's cocky. He talked about what he was going to do. He was one of the ones that said Chicago's getting ready to have their first 4,000-yard passer. It's early in the season, but at the pace he's going right now, they're not going to have their first 4,000-yard passer. It's not going to happen. He's got to pick up the pace. I still think the kid has all the markers of being a franchise quarterback. Get that head coach out of there. Get a better OC in there. We talk about it all the time. You have to find the right people to utilize the strengths and hide the weaknesses of a young rookie quarterback. And right now, they're not doing that. They're setting him up for failure. I would say they need to run the football more, win on first and second down, and give him more options instead of him going back every drive and it's 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, and it's all on him.
Yeah, the OC for the Bears may have called the worst play of this weekend. I don't know if you saw, Mo, but the Bears had a 4th and 1 on the 1-yard line, and the play ended up with the Bears getting sacked or losing 11 yards. The call was a speed option out of the pistol with DeAndre Swift lined up at the 10-yard line. Mind you, at that the 1, QB sneak, just if you're going to run the ball, just run it. Just be physical and go right at him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Even then, that wasn't a great idea, because guess what the last 3 play calls were that didn't work? Run, run, run. So maybe at some point try to pass. But no, on 4th down, they try a speed option. The whole line gets blown up. It's the greatest picture ever. There's 4 linemen on the ground. There's 1 lineman chasing behind the play. There's 6 Colts in the backfield. It is the funniest picture you'll ever see. I thought it was photoshopped when I first saw it, but it wasn't.
And remember, since we're bringing up Caleb Williams' struggles, there's two sides of every coin. Anthony Richardson, whew. Look, Caleb Williams has struggled. Anthony Richardson is bad. Like, he's very bad. Like, I get it. He's an incredible physical specimen, but the turnovers and the throws and the decisions that he makes, it's like he never played quarterback before, and they just throw him out there. I don't want to bang on anybody early in their career. I don't think Anthony Richardson is going to be the Colts franchise quarterback. I'm sure they think he's the future of the franchise. I don't think he is.
He is the most, like, he's such an enigma at quarterback, right? Because he can make throws that you can't see any other quarterback making. Like, he can throw like flat-footed 60-yard bombs. The issue with Anthony Richardson is he also can't hit the throws that every other quarterback is making. Ask him to hit a 15-yard crossing route, and that is going to be an absolute adventure, more than it should be. Ask him to hit a 10-yard hitch route, and you don't know if the ball's going to come anywhere close.
And he lacks vision and understanding of coverages, right? Like, he's one of those guys that pats the football, and he's waiting for the receiver to come open. And as he's waiting, the safety's waiting on him, and then they jump the ball. Like, I'll say this: I think Anthony Richardson still has he can have a long NFL career, but it's early enough. Maybe switch him to H-back, tight end. He's not a quarterback. He's not. If you leave him at quarterback, at best, he's going to be a career backup, a journeyman career backup.
Yeah. It's funny.
You know what? Josh Johnson, that guy. He's a bigger Josh Johnson. There you go.
Yeah, he has the arms to make all the throws, but he has the processing speed of like a 80s computer, and that's kind of where everything falls apart for him. Do a show where I break down QB tape if you watch Kentucky versus Florida last year in college, and tell me either one of Richardson or Levis gets drafted. Will Levis, Will Levis is something else. I think his big issue against the Packers, outside of staring down his receiver on that pick six, if you're gonna challenge somebody, probably don't stare down the receiver that Jair Alexander's covering first off. But it's almost like he still thinks he's in college with the pass rush, right? A college pass rush, you might get a solid 3-4 seconds to read and really react to everything. The NFL, what do you say, 2.5 seconds too, and that ball needs to be out on most plays. Will Levis just holds the ball a little too long. He doesn't process things fast enough, and then he gets himself into trouble. And that's kind of what I saw against the Packers. There were plays where there were openings, on some of those sacks. We can blame the line and say they were bad, and that wouldn't be inaccurate. But some of those, on a couple of the ones I remember there was one where Devontae Wyatt had, there were guys open, but he decided to hold on to the ball for that extra second, hoping a big play would break down. And in the NFL, that extra second means a lot. And it allowed Devontae Wyatt to come in and clean up on him and sack him.
Look, I think a lot of rookie quarterbacks, the one thing they have to adjust to immediately in the NFL is the speed of the game. Because like you said, it's so different. These defensive ends, they're faster than you are 9 times out of 10. They cut and they're up on top of you that quick. Your decision making has to be that much quicker. So it requires poise, but at the same time, like you said, you got to be able to process everything that's happening around you. So I do think, yes, I think Caleb Williams is having a struggle doing that, as are most of the rookie quarterbacks. And so I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to spike Anthony Richardson's NFL career. he may very well turn around and end up being Peyton Manning like in how he processes the game. I don't think he will, but is he young enough to where the right system? And the thing is, he's already in a quarterback friendly system. So I don't know where to go with that. He's in a quarterback friendly system and he looks like a tight end playing quarterback. It just doesn't work.
And you know what? By request, since unfortunately I'll be at work tonight, so I can't do an episode of Meaty Boys, but don't worry, I got some great stuff for Meaty Boys planned out that hopefully I'll be able to tell you about soon. Can y'all end the show talking about my guy, Mr. Intercontinental Champion, main event Jey Uso?
I love it. I love it.
Absolute banger. Just in general, that entire Raw was great. But really just Jey Uso beating Braun Breaker. I think that almost felt overdue for Jey Uso. That man deserved a title for the longest time. And now he's finally got it. And by title, I mean something besides the tag team titles with his brother.
Facts.
Like a singles run is something he's earned at this point, and I'm glad he's getting it. That was absolutely fantastic.
You know what? I'm gonna be honest. I'm watching the match play out. Will or Brett? Let me ask you this: as the match was playing out, especially near the end, I didn't think they were gonna put Jey over. I didn't. You know what I mean? Because to Breaker's point, when they were having their little back and forth, Jay'd been there 14 years. He's had an incredible amount of success, but it's been as a tag team champion. He's won some solo matches, but every time he went for a belt, he always came up just short. I'm such a big Jey Uso fan. I hope it's not a short run. I hope they give Jey. I hope they let him play it out, and it's a long run.
I think it will be. Like I said, this is something that he's earned. I think they give him a solid, like at least 2-3 month reign here. In fact, if I were them, probably wouldn't really consider having him drop until maybe like Survivor Series in November. But even then, maybe like the Royal Rumble, I think is more realistic.
Yeah,
let him hold it till like January.
Hey Brett, let me ask you this: is there a way, because he's now the champ? Can they tie that into the Bloodline storyline, right? Some kind of way.
Sure. I don't see why not. I mean, if he starts getting involved in Bloodline business, I could see them trying to send like Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, or one of the 87 Samoans that they have up after the IC title. And I think that'd be some great TV. Like, imagine Jacob Fatu versus, Jey Uso.
Well, look, I love Jey Uso, but you don't want to put him up against Jacob Fatu. The run's over. The run is over.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's a tough matchup. I think if I had to book that, I'd probably just make it end in disqualification or something to save Jay's title run.
Yeah, man. Look, Jacob Fatu is a monster.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But
I can see that, Gene. I can see that.
I still think that if they're doing Cody versus Rock at Mania, I think there's a very real chance it's Roman versus Jacob Fatu at Mania. I think that's probably the move with Fatu if they're not doing Rock and Roman this year.
That would be interesting. Because I like what Gene said about Jey Uso and Jacob Fatu, but if Fatu were to take the belt from Jey and then he was going up against Roman at Mania, that would be interesting. Like I said, Roman's one of those guys that because of his stature, he doesn't need a belt to be hot, to bring, you know what I mean? He doesn't need a belt, but at some point he's gonna want another belt. I don't think Roman Reigns wants to be the IC champion. I think Roman Reigns wants to have the belt around Cody's waist.
No, absolutely. No, yeah. Well, that's all I had for us today, Mo. Do you have anything you want to add? Or
no, I had a blast. Appreciate you so much, man, for stepping in like the champ that you are. Hey, thank you everybody for joining us this morning. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at the Wire to Wire Network. Wider Wire Network. We appreciate you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a lot of fun being on. I work a lot of night shifts, so I don't get to be up this early in the morning often. So it's kind of nice being up and able to hop on a morning show with you. So hopefully I'll get to do it again soon. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.